Hey, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is 12:04 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The date today is Thursday, February the 11th, 2021. This is episode 144 of MCRAE Live. My name's Dave MCRAE, coming to you live from the VoiceMann Studios in Toronto, Canada. And it's great that you are joining me here on the show today. And what do I want to talk about today? I want to talk about the Elisa Lam documentary, the 4-part series documentary on Netflix that dropped yesterday. Now, if you are tuning in to me for the first time, whether you're watching me live or whether you're watching after the fact and the show's not live, let me preface this. Some of you may already know this, those of you that watch me on the regular. I talked about the Elisa Lam story actually a couple of weeks ago, before I knew they were even dropping a documentary on Netflix. And I'm very familiar with the case. I'm certainly not a web sleuth by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm a pretty smart guy. And I am very into mysteries and that kind of stuff, like a lot of us are. I also, of course, know a lot about filmmaking and the filmmaking process and editing and post-production and all that kind of jazz. So that's helped me in this case, and we'll get to why in a second. But I first stumbled upon the Elisa Lam case about 5 years ago. So it's been quite some time. And I came across it like a lot of us did. Well, maybe not a lot of us, but certainly I came across it. I was looking for weird, creepy, mystery things to watch online. This is like 2015, 2016. This is a while ago. And I came across this elevator, video that we've all seen. And it was creepy and it was weird. And certainly at that time when you were watching videos, people were, it's very easy to watch videos and people dissect it leaning towards, paranormal and supernatural and all that kind of stuff. And I'm somebody that tends to believe that those things are possible. But certainly I'm also a believer that more often than not, there are reasonable explanations for unusual occurrences. And it's important that we don't go off the track and start, losing our rationale here, and logic. So it was interesting and it was peculiar and I didn't really go past that. Then about 4 years or so ago, so 2017, my girlfriend and I we were supposed to attend a wedding. And we couldn't, unfortunately, because we both got sick at the same time. So we both were sort of couch-ridden for about a week or so. It was actually kind of fun, because we were able to watch some movies and all that kind of stuff. It was fun. And we didn't have to worry about getting each other sick because we were already sick together. So what the hell? Let's just fucking hang out. So we started watching some weird and unusual, creepy mysteries and things like that. And I'm paraphrasing this, but I happened to say to her, "Hey, have you seen the Elisa Lam thing?" And she's like, "Well, the Elisa Lam thing? No, I think that sounds familiar, but what is that?" So I showed her the elevator thing. And to make a long story short, this started this rabbit hole of info that we went down. And at that time, there was more online on YouTube about her and about the case. And about the case, not the creepy, it was demons, it was ghosts, it was the elevator game, not that. I mean, there is that. There's a section of, YouTube where the people just focus on that. But there was a lot more videos really kind of tackling the case. And sort of what Netflix did, right? And maybe not to the degree they did, but certainly like that. And that I found interesting. And we went through this whole rabbit hole. I mean, we knew... Let me just say, 95% of what Netflix told you, I already knew. And anybody who has done their due diligence into the case, far beyond just the creepy elevator video and getting locked into video after video trying to prove to you that it was demons or something like that, or because the Cecil Hotel does have that incredibly dark past, somehow it's the hotel. If you go beyond that and you start really actually going, into, blogs and forums and, reading her Tumblr and really hours of rabbit hole stuff, you discover info that it's like, oh shit. Like, it's crazy stuff. So we did that. And we came to the conclusion, based on what we knew at that time, before watching the documentary, It's not ghosts. It's not spirits. She wasn't thrown into the water tank by some unseen force. And I understand why the Netflix documentary, had that part of it to it. I get it. I mean, they need to entertain. I understand it. But I was leaning towards, and it was based on information. It was based on the information that we had. Now, let's not forget that this case closed. This case hasn't been opened. As soon as the coroner, hey, this is my Marty McFly voice. Hey, Doc. As soon as the coroner back in 2013 announced that the death was accidental, it was case closed. The Elisa Lam case has been closed for quite some time. Like, it hasn't been an active investigation for quite some time. So it's always been peculiar, and not to say that they don't have their reasons, but it's always been peculiar that if the case is closed and has been closed for many years, why certain information then wasn't made to the public. Like, we know, and we knew this without even knowing this, without having Netflix confirm this. We knew that there, like that thing in the documentary about how there's video of her talking to two guys who hand her a box. Yep, I already knew that. I knew that because if you knew where to look and you started down the rabbit hole, you knew that the information was out there, that existed. So there was the kind of thing that, a lot of us, again, I'm not a web sleuth. I'm not like the guys they were, but I knew a lot and know a lot. And I remember thinking to myself, well, if it's a closed case and it's been a closed case for 5 or 6 years, and that video of her talking to two guys was, now at the time we didn't know it was innocuous. I mean, we had no idea that, because we're like, well, who is it? The police knew, and the police knew for years that it was the delivery guys from the last bookstore. But the general public didn't know that, and until this documentary, and now maybe others knew that were inside and had maybe, but generally speaking, right? Well, if it's a closed case, then why not just release that video? Why not release the video of her meeting these two guys? Because we know who it is. Why not do it? I mean, maybe they don't want to obviously have those two guys on tape because I get it. There's a variety of reasons why they may not do that. But anyway, the point I'm making is, before we dive into the Netflix show here, is that I know a lot about it. And so there wasn't really too much new information that I didn't know. Like, I even knew about that if you've watched it. And by the way, I should have said this at the top. Spoilers, I guess. Spoiler alert, spoiler warning. If you haven't seen it and you want to go watch it and come back. I mean, it's a documentary, and can you really spoil a documentary? I don't know. But if you want to watch it, because it is a mystery, go watch it, come back. Darren is right, by the way, Darren Sands. The whole fucking thing is, this thing could, and because I know what I knew about it, I could have told you what they told you in 45 minutes. There was no need to draw this thing out over 4 hours. There really wasn't. Now, was I interested in watching it all? I did, and I binged it last night, and I watched it, yeah. And I find it interesting because, it's designed and it's executed in a way that is very cinematic, right? These documentaries are very cinematic, and they tell a story, they tell a narrative. They place certain information, the documentary is leading you down a path of uncertainty and then to a path of resolution. Very much like what you would do in a story. Like, there are 3 acts to this documentary, right? There's villains in the documentary, you know what I mean? And there's certain info that they could tell you right away, but they'll have the people in the documentary being weird and strange, or not being, well, there is one lady I'm going to talk about in a second, but acting like they don't know something, or like, isn't that weird, when they already do know the answer to what they're talking about. But they're interviewed and it's edited and it's designed in a way like a lot of these documentaries are. The Richard Ramirez thing was the same way. It's designed and presented very cinematically, and and leading the audience down this path. There's no reason why this thing had to be 4 hours. No reason. If you can tell a whole Dateline episode on Elisa Lam, or 48 hours and 40 minutes, you can do it here. But of course, we understand why they want to draw this thing out, naturally. But certainly you could have Darren is right. You could have told this thing in fucking 40 minutes, you know, I mean, maybe 2 episodes, maybe if you wanted to draw it out a bit more, have some fun, create, you know, the tension and the suspense. Okay, fine. Make it 2 episodes, but four was unnecessary. And maybe part of that is also because I knew a lot of the information already, but Darren, who reached out to me last night, said too, he said, I don't know how much you knew, Darren, but he said, no, there was a lot of filler. And there was a lot of filler. There was definitely a lot of filler, but that shouldn't prevent you from watching it though. I mean, it's if you enjoyed the Richard Ramirez thing, you'll enjoy this. It's the same style, you know what I mean? And it's presented in the same way. So very cinematic, but a lot of filler. I will say this, and I want to get this out of the way. The former manager of the Cecil Hotel, who I've been for years now, I've been wondering where the fuck is she and why can't somebody get in touch with her? So she comes on and, you know, she's in this documentary. Now, listen, I don't know this lady. I don't know who she is, you know, but with all due respect, lady, you're fucking weird. You're fucking weird. At least you were acting weird in this documentary. Now, what do I mean by that? I'm not saying she is. And by saying that, I'm not saying she's suspicious and she's lying. That's not what I'm saying. Because, and I have to preface my thoughts and say that because, as you know, we live in a world where people are, you know, there's no nuance anymore. So I'm not saying that she, you know, killed Elisa Lam and she knows the truth and it's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying she's fucking weird. And it was like she was acting. You know, the way that the way she would be like, she'd say, and I'm paraphrasing, but she'd be like, and then, you know, he found her in the water tank. And I was like, oh my God, she was in the water tank? Wow. I mean, that's so strange. Like, it's literally like that. Now, is she lying? I'm not saying she's lying. I'm just saying that it felt like she was instructed to act surprised. So she was pretending to act surprised. That's what it felt like. It felt like, hey, this is a documentary where we're trying to create some suspense here, lady. And, you know, we need you to act surprised. So can you be like, whoa, holy shit, like in the water tank? Wow. She was like that all the way through. The only moments where she wasn't quite like that is when she was discussing sort of things that didn't require her to act surprised or act perplexed. She was acting a little bit more like herself, like maybe when she was kind of talking about her first day on the job or, you know, something like that. But then, of course, you know, it would lead into that. She was just fucking weird. She was, if you wanted to think she was suspicious and that she knows more than what she is, you would have no problem. You would have no problem buying into it. She was fucking weird. And lady, if you're watching, with all due respect, you might be the nicest person in the world. You could be, but it's just hilarious to me that you have a weirdly eccentric, weird affect and you know, way of speaking and personality, and you also happen to be the manager of the Cecil Hotel. Like, it's like, you know, and she had no managerial experience before then either. It's like they just plucked her off of Skid Row and away you go. Okay, that was bad. I admit that was bad. That was bad. I'm sorry. That was bad, lady. If you're watching, I'm sorry. But the fact of the matter is that she was weird. She was very strange. Now, again, that doesn't mean that she was in on it and there was an inside job. It just is an observation. She was fucking weird, and it was like she was acting. It was bad B-movie acting. That's what it felt like to me. That's what it felt like to me. So, just want to get that out of the way, too. The information, again, like I said, I knew about 95%. I've been down to the Cecil Hotel. Now, I haven't been in the Cecil Hotel, but about 3 years or so ago, the year that I went to Los Angeles in 2018, I went there for a couple of reasons. I went there to attend the Voice Arts Awards at Warner Brothers Studios, and I was also there for the Halloween 40th anniversary convention in Pasadena. And when I had some downtime to kill, my girlfriend and I went downtown. I was going to say downtown Toronto, went downtown LA, and we were doing the tourist thing. And so we went to the last bookstore, And we went there specifically because Elisa Lam. We went to the last bookstore. We went there. We walked around. I have photos of me in the last bookstore. We also did the walk from the last bookstore to the Cecil Hotel. And we did that walk because we wanted to see, what the walk was like. A lot of these web sleuths, have done, but we just did it. Again, we're not that deep. But we did it because we're down there and we kind of wanted to see. And we were kind of like, shit, imagine walking this thing at night. Like, fuck. As soon as we turned that corner and started walking towards the Cecil, and we could see the Cecil in the background, like the stench of urine was very present. Like, for those of you that don't know, the Cecil Hotel it's not on Skid Row. It's like a block above it. It's for all intents and purposes, it's Skid Row, but the area is a shithole. It's a fucking shithole. And we often joked about the irony because we were staying in Hollywood, and not that Hollywood's, but I mean, you have like the Hollywood Hills and multi-million-dollar mansions and glitz and glam and money. And you literally travel south like 30 minutes and you're on Skid Row, one of the poorest, most dangerous places in the United States. And we turned that corner. I had this guy walk up to me. I turned the corner. We're walking towards the Cecil, and there was this guy crossing the street. He's coming over, and I'm like, and part of me is like, am I going to have to get into some fight here? Because you're thinking that, right? Does he have a gun? Does he have a knife? Am I going to, I was prepping, I could feel my body prepping myself just on the off chance. My girlfriend was kind of right there, and he comes over and he's like, hey, you got any money, man? That's no exaggeration. He walks up, he's like, hey, I mean, I just got there. This is like maybe, 30 yards away from the Cecil, and it reeked of urine down there. I could smell it. Now, maybe it was his pee. Maybe he was peeing as he was talking to me. I don't know, but I could smell it. So we walked by it, and there, of course, it was closed because it closed in January 2017. This would have been the fall of 2018, so it was closed for quite some time. We snapped a couple of photos of it, and we went on our way, and we circled back around, and then we went to a market and had dinner, and it was a nice evening. So I mean, it is. It's a really creepy and weird place, and I'll get to why it should just stay closed in a second, but. So 95% of the documentary, all that info I knew. And before watching this, I was leaning heavily towards there being some sort of cover-up. And that's not me. And I can't speak for these web sleuths, and I don't want to speak for anybody else who is thinking that, because you do have people that are just conspiratorial by nature, and they just believe everything's a conspiracy. It doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter how much evidence you present somebody, they believe it's a conspiracy. It does not matter. You could present it, literally, you could present absolute, objective, quantifiable, no questions asked evidence, and they still wouldn't believe it. I mean, Elisa Lam could walk through the door as a ghost and say, yes, I jumped into the water tank because I'm bipolar. And people would go, nah, nice try, Elisa. They've got your mind. They've got your ghostly mind under control. I mean, there are people that are like that, okay? There's a spectrum. I didn't fall on that. It was based on evidence. It was based on, or lack thereof, evidence. And it was specifically based on certain things that I saw and that I didn't see, and that things that were being withheld, which I didn't understand. But I'm also somebody that is, says that if new evidence comes forward, if new information comes forward, very much like when you're making predictions on Halloween, or you're making predictions on a movie, it's based on information that is currently present, right? That doesn't mean information can't change, but for whatever reason, in the world of fandom, when you predict something or you say something, and it turns out to be something different, or you change your mind on something, somehow that means you're less credible, which is fucking weird. But anyway, so it was based on the information that I had at hand at that moment. and or lack thereof. You know, we even knew about the last bookstore zip code, or whatever it was, pointing to the cemetery where she was buried in BC. I knew about that. That's a deep cut. And I even turned to my girlfriend last night and I said, I bet you they're not going to mention that. And they did. They did mention that in the documentary. So I applaud them for that, because that's a deep cut. That's not mainstream. That's something you got to go down like 45 rabbit holes and like blogs and shit and research to find that. Like that's now it might be more common now, but when we discovered that several years ago, that was a deep cut. Not a lot of people knew about that. So it was nice to see that in the documentary, because there is a lot of weird synchronicity there. For those of you that watch me on the regular, of course, you heard me talk about the tuberculosis test, Lam Elisa, which is fucking weird. I mean, that's like me living here where I am. There's a school around the corner, and there's some sort of outbreak of something. I've disappeared, and the test that you administer to test for whatever it is around the corner from where I've disappeared is coincidentally called MCRAE Dave. That's just fucking weird, right? Does that mean that there's a big conspiracy? No, but like they did say in the documentary, there is some weird stuff. There is some weird synchronicity that goes on there, right? Definitely, 100%. But what I didn't know, and what has changed my mind in favor of the outcome of the documentary, of what they've settled on. What? Oh, my cat is in here. My cat is in here. You're in here. You want out? Veda, come here. You want out? 1 second, folks. I'll be right back. Hold the line. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Veda was in here, and she was I had to attend to something there. My apologies, I'm back. What actually changed my mind, at least brought the probability up much higher, is several bits of information that was in the documentary that I didn't know. And I wonder how many people who have done really deep cuts, who know a lot about this case, knew about this. Because now, to be fair, I haven't gone down the rabbit hole in over a year, because there's been very new information in the Elisa Lam case, because it's a closed case and has been for years, is very far and few between. You find yourself watching the same videos or just recycling the same information. So new information is very far and few between. So watching this documentary, when the police said that that she had attended a taping of a television show at Burbank, California. Now, Warner Brothers is in Burbank. I've been to Warner Brothers a number of times. They also taped the Ellen DeGeneres show there. Now, I'm not saying it was the Ellen show. I don't know. Maybe that knowledge is out there now, and maybe if you are somebody that has done deep cuts on the Elisa Lam case, if you are one of the web sleuths that was maybe even in the documentary, comment below and let me know. Maybe this is more common knowledge now, but it certainly wasn't a few years ago. And I found that interesting. I thought, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Now, they didn't tell you what television show it was, because I understand that because of the subject matter. They don't want to and they don't want to get sued. And I get why they left it nameless. But if it's Burbank in 2013, it could only be one of several shows. Okay. Not every show in LA shoots in Burbank. Ellen does. So maybe it was Ellen. I don't know. Now, I know The Tonight Show used to shoot in Burbank, but that was Jay Leno. When they moved, obviously The Tonight Show now is in New York. And it's been in New York for a number of years. Anyway, so that was interesting to me. And what was also interesting is that apparently she wrote a note and asked them to give it to the host. Now that's when we're like, oh shit. Okay. If that is true, and I have no reason to believe that it's not, we're taking it at face value with what they say. I mean, I don't know how you would disprove or prove that now. It's been almost a decade. But if that's true, and they are telling the truth and that did happen, that is information that wasn't the more common knowledge. At least I don't remember ever coming across that. And maybe some hardcore web sleuths that were even more hardcore than me, maybe they knew that. Maybe they did. Maybe they did. I don't remember ever seeing that in any Tumblr posts, in any video, in deep cuts of people talking about it and people who know far more about it than I do. Like these web sleuths who I watched, and some of them were on this thing. I never heard them talk about it ever. Now, maybe they know about it now, obviously, but I never heard about them talk about it. That's not good. That's not good. Now, what I did know and what I was waiting for them to talk about was we did know that when she first arrived at the Cecil Hotel, she was in a certain room, rooming with a couple of girls, and was moved away from that room because of odd behavior. But until this documentary, nobody knew what that odd behavior was. I used to say all the time to my girlfriend, what the fuck do you mean by odd? That could be what? Because if we knew what that's very important to know. What do you define odd behavior? Is it just girls not getting along? Or is it odd behavior? You know what I mean? Because sometimes, I mean, look at the world of fandom, right? You know, there's no nuance anymore. And sometimes people can think you're odd, but you're not odd. You're just different, you know, or you're just quiet. You know what I mean? You're not extroverted. And maybe they were wanting to hang out with her and chill, and she just didn't want to have anything to do with it. So she was like, no. So she was just, you know, maybe she got grumpy one evening, and now they're like, oh, we don't want to stay with her. Whatever. Hello, front desk. This girl's odd. We don't want to stay. I mean, who knows, right? We don't know. If you're not going to define it, we don't know what that means. And I'm telling you, in a place like the Cecil, there's a lot of odd behavior. Define odd, okay? Like, I mean, come on. What is odd in the Cecil? Anyway, so it was nice to see, because I wondered when they first started talking about the room she was in, I turned to my girlfriend, I'm like, I wonder if they're going to talk about the fact that she was moved away from that. They eventually did, which was nice. They didn't talk a lot about it, but they did. And they defined the odd behavior. They talked about how she left notes, go away. She would lock them out of the room and ask for a password. That information was not out there. That information was, at least not that I'm aware, unless in the last year or two it's come out. But when we were deep cutting this and we would check in every so often, didn't see any of that. It was just, she was moved from her room because of odd behavior. But nobody knew what that meant, because you couldn't talk to the manager. The Cecil Hotel didn't want to talk to you. Not until there's a Netflix show, I guess. You know, the police didn't want to talk to you, and it's a closed case. If it's a closed case, then why can't we get a little more information on this? Not that we're you know, owed it, but I just, you know what I'm trying to say, right? So that was nice to see. Whoa. That's not good. And what I mean by that is that now it really helps. See, it's more than just the elevator video. The elevator, I can tell you, I can tear the elevator video apart in a way that will leave all the conspiracy theorists feeling grumpy and upset. There's nothing to see here. There's nothing supernatural or demon-like about that elevator video at all. And that little back of the foot that they thought was potentially somebody, and I'm surprised, and they didn't even go back to that to say what it actually is. It's the back of her foot. That little foot whose foot is that? It's nobody's foot. It's the back of her foot. She's standing there. She puts her other foot over. My girlfriend did it. She showed me how it's done. She goes, girls do that. And she did it. And she got up and she said, this is what she did. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what she did. You saw the back of her foot, the back of her heel, the back of the sandal. She put her right leg over her left and did kind of like that turn and walked away. That's what it was. And that has been proven actually I'm surprised they didn't come back to that, but I guess they wanted to leave something a mystery. There's a lot of things in there that I could tear apart. The elevator thing is, but if you are just basing, what was difficult for us is making the leap, right? Okay, she's acting strange. Well, define strange. Never did. The elevator video is strange, but there's anomalies there, which I'll go over in a second, which I'm not happy with their answers, by the way. Doesn't mean there was a conspiracy. I'm just not happy with their answers. But there's got to be more. How does she end up? Okay, so she's bipolar. Okay, but how does she end up from there in the fucking water tower naked? It was the leap that a lot of us were having trouble making. The lack of information after a closed case that was not divulged or not released, or, you know, whatever the case is. So yeah, your mind's going to wander, and especially the elevator. Let me talk about this for a second. And I'm not happy with their answers, by the way. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know this, but the first thing I immediately honed in on, the very first time I ever watched that, was the scrambled time code. Now, as you heard me say before on a MCRAE Live, that doesn't mean there's a conspiracy. It doesn't mean that the police are in on something. It doesn't mean there's anything nefarious going on. But when you scramble a time code, you are, in effect, trying to hide something. And that something could be completely innocent, but that is why you're doing it. The other thing I noticed, which I'm glad they talked about as well, is the jump cut with the elevator door. And you heard me talk about that. You guys who've been following me for some time, before that documentary release, I was talking about this. The elevator door doesn't come out of the wall. There's a jump cut, and then it's already in motion. That doesn't mean that there was a conspiracy. It doesn't mean that there was anything nefarious going on. It doesn't mean the police were in on it. It doesn't mean demons got it. It doesn't mean any of that. But it does mean the video was edited. Why? Why was the video edited? And this is what leaves people to say, well, why would you edit the video? Because you're trying to hide something, or you were just speeding up the video. Well, it was open for like another 2 minutes and we were like, well, why don't we just speed this up? But if you're releasing factual evidence to the public, like you're releasing as is, it shouldn't be edited at all. You should never release a doctor, or unless with more information. Hey, here's this. Just want to let you know, we have done this and this, and here's why. Just in case there are questions, this is why. But that's not what they did. It was slowed down. Their reasoning for slowing it down, because I was waiting, because this has been like, how many years in the making? I was waiting for the police to come up with an answer. Their reason for slowing it down is so you could see her better. Okay. They didn't really have an answer for the scrambled time code or the door. They gave you reasons why. Well, I'm not really sure. Our media department and blah, blah, blah. And why you do that is because you want to hide this or that or whatever. But then it just kind of was left. It was like, and? I was waiting for, and? Did the producers try to get in touch with somebody who like the department who does know why they did that? Because I don't believe the hotel did it. No, of course not. But it is scrambled. Why? Why is it scrambled? It could be completely innocent. But because there was no information, because there was nobody actually, coming forward saying, well, hang on a sec, you little web sleuths, here's why. Somebody official from the police department, from their media department, whatever it is, saying this is why we did this. Nobody ever did that, ever. Even when approached and asked about it, there was never an answer. Well, naturally, people are going to think, well, maybe somebody walked by. Now, maybe that somebody is innocent and they just edited the video to edit them out because they didn't want people to think that, Bob the janitor had something to do with it. There's something completely innocent, right? Right? But we don't know. Did she walk back? Did she walk by with somebody else? We don't know because the video was edited. I also told you, the documentary told you this as well, but a few weeks ago when I talked about this, I said that the reason why it was open is because it's also a service elevator, in the sense that you can hit the door and hold it open so you can move shit in and out. There are some elevators, depending on how many elevators you have in a building, there are sometimes a designated service elevator where, say you have like 4 elevators in a building. Well, they'll choose one that is like, it's an elevator that you can use, but it's primarily used to move people in and out of buildings and things like that. And you can press a button that holds the door open for like 2 or 3 minutes, right? Well, in the Cecil Hotel, they only have 2 elevators. So one of the elevators, maybe they were both like this, I don't know, but certainly the one that Elisa was in was also functioning like that as well. You hold the door open and it holds open for 2 minutes. So you can move shit in and out. That's what it's designed for, right? Is so it's open while you're moving like a couch in or something. You know what I'm saying? So that wasn't a mystery to me. But I knew that like 3 years ago because of the deep cuts we would do. But having said that, going back to the elevator, it's understandable why many sleuths, again, I don't consider myself a sleuth, especially when you listen to these people, but certainly I was very interested in it and read up a lot on it and know a lot about it. when you understand the lack of information on a closed case, you understand that these people aren't, I mean, some of them might be idiots, but these people aren't idiots. They're not these, there are people that are conspiratorial by nature, and it doesn't matter, you know, like I said, it doesn't matter what you show them, they're just going to think, you know, it's a conspiracy. But there were some genuine individuals who were doing really good work, really good investigative work, who were leaning towards a certain outcome because, well, we're not getting any answers. Now, so, I mean, it looks very suspicious. So, and I'm still not satisfied with the answer they gave us with the time code and the door. I mean, they gave you reasons why, but they didn't give you the reason why. So I was like, well, okay, whatever. It doesn't mean that there's anything nefarious, but I'm not satisfied with that. I want to talk to the person who edited the video. And according to the police officer, one of the police officers in the documentary, they still have that tape. Unless I heard that wrong, they still have that tape, which I wonder if they have the unedited version, the non-doctored, non-scrambled, non-jump cut version of that tape. Release it. Why not? Release it. The case is closed. The coroner said it was an accident. Release that tape. Why? Because you think there's something nefarious? No, not at all. I just think they should release it. Why not? Right? Release the tape of her talking to the two guys. You know, I mean, there might be an issue there with privacy with the two guys, perhaps, but I also knew there was more. There was more video footage of her, you know, but they didn't release that either. So again, I agree 100% that if a case is open and the public is like, I want to know, it's like, well, shut your fucking face. It's an ongoing case. The police cannot release certain information because it could jeopardize the case. And although that sounds like an overused cliche, it is totally true. They don't want the general public knowing certain shit because the general public can't keep their fucking mouths shut. And somebody's going to tell somebody who's going to tip off the person they're after, and then it's all for nothing. And then they've escaped and they're off to Mexico and you never see them again. I get it 100%. It doesn't matter. I want to know why you scrambled the fucking time code. Dave, shut up, okay? It's an ongoing case. You know what I mean? I get it. But the case is closed. Done. Sealed. Over. Done. It's been closed for nearly a decade. Release it. Release the undoctored version of that video. Just for no other reason than for interest's sake. So I can see, I don't know, the time, how long she was in there. So I don't have to guess or what. I don't know. You know, release it. There's no reason I don't think why they can't do that. Having watched the documentary and the real two big additions that I wasn't aware of that lends huge credence to her putting herself in that tank is the television show incident. And now we know what weird behavior is defined as in regards to her hanging out with those two girls. Yeah, I mean, it definitely lends credence to the probability that she was having a breakdown and she may have put herself in that tank. The probability, look, is it possible that there was still a cover up and that there was still something crazy going on? Of course, it's always possible. So for all you conspiratorial people out there who just want to run down that road, it's still possible. But I think it's less probable now than it was for me anyway, 24 hours ago. You know, if they are telling the truth. Now, again, you have the weird former manager of the Cecil saying things like, well, I've never said this before, but she came running into the lobby going, I'm crazy, but so is everybody in LA. Now, my girlfriend turned to me right after that and said, oh, I totally could see her doing that. And yeah, I could too. When you understand sort of and it's not like I'm a psychologist, but when you understand the little bits that I do, it's like, yeah, it seems believable, especially in a situation that she was in the mind frame that she was in the spiral that she was in. It does, I can see her doing that, you know? And, but why were we not privy to that information 7 years ago, 8 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago? Now, again, this goes out to all the web sleuths out there that may have this information, right? Maybe there is information that that has come to light before the documentary came out. You know what I mean? And Rick Baker is right. He's right when he says edited video can be just to exclude innocent bystanders. You're absolutely right, Rick. I've been saying that for forever. But then tell us that. Say, well, listen, we've edited the video because there are several people that have walked by, which we have excluded. We've investigated and excluded, and we just do not want their faces on. So that is why we've edited it, right? Now, do the police have to say that? No. They don't have to say fuck all, but then expect suspicion to be around that. Expect the phones to not stop ringing from web sleuths demanding that you release the files now that the case is closed because 100%, and there's a very easy way to put an end to it. You say, hey, the reason why we edited the video and the door closed on a jump cut is because Bob walked by and Bob is innocent. And we didn't want anybody to think Bob was responsible. And Bob doesn't want anybody to think Bob is responsible. So that's why we edited the video. Oh, okay. Now, are you still going to get people going, yeah, sure, okay, let me see it then? Of course you will. But at least it's an explanation. At least it's on the record. At least sane, rational people like myself and you can go, oh, yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, okay. But when you don't say anything and you just go, and even in the documentary, it's like, well, there's several reasons why it could be edited. It's to hide things. Just the media department. I'm not really sure why they did that. Anyway, on to the next thing. It's like, and, there was really no answer for that. That is still why ultimately why the time code in this specific instance was scrambled and why there's a jump cut in the door is ultimately still relatively a mystery. Doesn't mean it's nefarious, right? Doesn't mean it's trying to hide a conspiracy. But I'm not fully satisfied with the answer to that. But I tell you though, I mean, if I was like 10% that there was a cover up, I'm maybe, 20% now or something. I always leave a little wiggle room for new information to come down. But no, it does sound like if this is true, and if she really did write a note and was kicked out of a television, and she really was writing crazy notes around her little, room and say, go away and all this, she was losing it. And now, when you watch the elevator footage, making the leap, knowing this information, making the leap from that to winding up in the water tower is less of a leap than it was 24 hours ago because you have this information. But where was this information a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago? Now I'm sure there could be reasons for that too. The coroner report where he made the mistake, error, scratched out, it was unusual, but it never really bothered me. I mean, I was smart enough to know that, well, it just could be an error. I mean, how many times have we done that in our lives? Those of us that are old enough to remember actually writing on paper, little fucking kids. No, I'm just kidding. But how many of us have done that in our lives where we've written something and we're like, oh shit, and we scratched out and I meant this or whatever, right? So, I mean, that's very believable, very plausible. I never really had an issue with that. They didn't find any marks on her, no sign of sexual assault, no sign of strangulation. Another thing that was important too, which we already knew this, of course, is the fact that because I had followed that guy that actually went to the hearing, that the maintenance guy, when he got up there, the lid was open. Now you could say, oh, so he says. Well, okay, but look at him. You know what I mean? I mean, chances are it was open. And he looked in and there she was. Now, had the hatch been closed, that doesn't mean that anything nefarious had gone on, but had the hatch been closed when he went up there and opened it up and saw her, yes, that again would lean a little more credence to, well, that's weird. How did she close the hatch behind her? Because it's not even I don't even think it's one of those ones where you go like this, like kind of go, it's like a hatch that comes right off. So what does he do? Or like, what is she doing? Kind of, with her palm trying to lift it up? Because you couldn't do this because you need to tread water. Very, very, very weird. But the fact that it was open, it's like, okay, All right. Yeah, that's totally believable. You jump in there. You're not going to put the lid back on. You're fucked. You're fucked. Now, there were a few things that they did leave out. Again, if you do some deep cuts into this, there was a bit of flooding on one of the floors, I believe her floor. There was a bit of flooding. There was a tenant there that said there was a bit of flooding, I think on the night or the day after she disappeared. There was also a big bang that somebody heard the night that she disappeared, I believe. One of the residents talked about hearing like a big bang from like the roof or something or that direction, which may have been the lid. Maybe she picked up the lid and you know what I mean? It weighed 20 pounds. You know, maybe that's what he heard, right? I mean, it's anecdotal stuff and it doesn't really change the outcome, or it couldn't necessarily persuade you either way. But just little bits of information like that I was looking for that was not in there. The couple that was interviewed from England that stayed at the Cecil, it was good to see them in there because I remember seeing them when I dove deep into it all. So, I mean, all in all, like Darren said, he watched a documentary and he said he felt satisfied at the end. A little, you know, a lot of filler and I agree with that. But certainly I am left feeling satisfied. I don't think I would have left feeling satisfied if it wasn't for that new information. That really does paint a picture of somebody. It's just so sad. It's so sad. I feel so sorry for her. I wish she would have remained on the medication. You know, I wish she would have. I mean, that doesn't mean it wouldn't have still happened, but you know, she was having a breakdown. She was having a big breakdown, and it just was bad timing. You know, it's too bad. It's too bad that breakdown didn't happen, you know, when she left Los Angeles and went up to, you know, Sacramento or San Francisco. Maybe she would have stayed in a better hotel, you know, that had better security, that didn't have access to the roof. And maybe somebody would have seen her and got her some help, called 911, called her parents or something. I mean, it's just really unfortunate that it happened at the Cecil because, you know, it is true. I mean, the Cecil Hotel, when you dive into it and when you know a lot about it, and like I said, I've been down there, it's a fucking scummy ass area. Yeah, it's got a very, very dark past, very sad past. And seeing her walk through a lobby, if the strange, weird former manager is right, and I say that for those of you that are just tuning in and did watch the doc, I'm not saying she's had something to do with it. I'm just saying the manager was fucking weird. And like I said, and I define that, it's like, well, define weird. Well, eccentric and like she's acting. Like and then we went over here and I was like, oh my God, like, you can't be serious. Like, watch it. That's literally what she's doing. And it's fake. It's like I hired my mom. Well, actually my mom was a good actor, but it would be like, you know, the term, right? Like, you know, you hire your mom, or, you know, you get your neighbor to be in your, you know, your home movie and she's got to act scared. So she's going, help, somebody help me. That's literally what, like, this manager, that's the kind of vibe you got from her. It was just, she was full of shit. I don't mean full of shit that she wasn't telling the truth. I just mean, like, it's like I said earlier, it's as if the producer or the director of the documentary was like, okay, now act really kind of like, this is so weird. Like, what's going on? You know what I mean? And she was like, okay. So I was like, wow, in the water tank? Weird. Like, it's just, she was fucking weird. Uncomfortably weird. You know, that I have no doubt that people are going to be like, oh, she knows something, and not necessarily. But that aside, yeah, why would she think twice about asking Elisa Lam if she needed help? She's the manager of the Cecil Hotel. Do you know how many fucking weird, smelly ass, unusual people walk through there and live there? I mean, like she said, I see that kind of shit, you know, 10 times a day, twice on Sunday. I mean, it doesn't, you know, or 10 times a day, 20 times on Sunday, I should say, because that would be twice. Yeah. That'd be less on Sunday. But anyway, like, I mean, she doesn't, it's nothing out of the ordinary, especially by that time. You know, maybe if this was her first week, maybe, but by 2013, she was already the manager of the Cecil Hotel for 6 years. So she had seen some pretty crazy shit in that 6 years, you know. So it's just unfortunate. It's unfortunate that it was a tragic, a very high probability. I always like leaving a little wiggle room because you never know, but high probability that this was a tragic accident. And I'm confident in that if the police are telling the truth, which I don't see why they wouldn't, in this instance, not that police don't lie, but you know what I mean. Yeah, the writing a long note and demanding it be given to the host, that's not good, man. She's not in a good place. That's not good. That's not good. Now, that doesn't mean there was anything bad in the note. That doesn't mean it was like, I'm going to kill your parents. You know, it doesn't mean that at all. It doesn't mean that at all. But it is overzealous. It's something that security, especially with, you know, a high profile person, let's say it was Ellen, high profile person, that's a security threat. That's a security risk. You know, that could be somebody who's a stalker, a rabid fan. We need to take care of this, and we need to put a stop to this now. So she was escorted not just out of the studio, but off the property. That would have been a blow to her. That would have been, in the state that she was in the manic state that she was in the spiral that she was going down. That would have been devastating to her. Devastating. Because it's just another, that would have been a huge blow. Switching rooms for the reasons that I say, that we know now, that would have hurt. You know, she was in trouble. She was in trouble. And knowing all of that, like I said, in addition to the elevator video, it makes more sense to me now. It makes more sense to me. So those are my first initial thoughts on the documentary. Just to quickly recap, it's a bit bloated. You could tell this story in 45 minutes, but I get that there's the cinematic angle to it. They want to tell it very cinematically and have, you know, bad guys and good guys and twists and turns. And I get why they're doing that. But there is a lot of filler. There is a lot of filler. 95% of the stuff I already knew. It was just told in a very cinematic way, so it was cool to watch again, but the actual bones of the information I already knew. But it's nice to hear it again because it's kind of weird and that kind of stuff. That new information in regards to her behavior was definitely helpful for me. I know it would be helpful for others who knew as much as I did but didn't know those details. I'm glad they went there. That is really important because it helps to make the case for her insanity, essentially. That really, 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 really helps. And then the manager's just fucking weird and should never manage a hotel ever again. Yeah, and just, I mean, you know, that's it really at the end of the day. I mean, it was good. I think if you're definitely somebody that was into the case, that remembers the case, maybe you haven't looked into it in quite some time, it's worth a watch. It'll brush up on the things you already know and may introduce you to some new information, which may or may not change your mind on how you already felt on which way you were leaning. And again, when I say that I was leaning towards a cover-up, there's more than just what I explained here. There's a lot of different weird, unusual things in addition to the time code and the door and all that kind of stuff. And but I wasn't conspiratorial. I was under the impression that it may have been, you know, it may still have been an accident, you know, and nothing necessarily nefarious or intentional going on and things like that. Maybe the hotel was trying to, you know, there's things that point to that if you want to go down that road. Certainly. They're circumstantial, but they do. But this is good information. This is good new information to have because, like I said, it really does help. So just tragic, sad, you know, 21 years old, really, really tragic. So I recommend it, watching it, but be prepared. It's 4 hours that could easily be 2 hours, a lot of filler. But if you don't know anything about it, you don't know anything about the Cecil Hotel, I think you'll enjoy it. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Oh, and the other thing I want to say too is, before we head over to the chat room is this. They keep talking, because I know it was sold for however much money in 2017 or whatever to that company in New York who wants to put a pool on the roof. They want to reopen it, revitalize. Listen, if you are somebody who was a part of that project, if you're somebody who currently has stakes in the Cecil Hotel, if you're somebody that's watching this, enough. You cannot revitalize the Cecil Hotel because of the area it's in. Now, they must know this. You're in the scuzziest, scuzz-sucking, diarrhea-infested part of the United States. Arguably one of the worst parts of the United States, okay? I don't care how you spin it, what name you call it, how much, work you put into the hotel, you change the name, change the sign, you're in Skid Row. It's a shitty fucking area, okay? I don't care how glorious your hotel is. If I walk out of the hotel front doors to the smell of urine, it doesn't matter how nice my fucking hotel is. Unless my whole goal is to just stay in the hotel. Now, do people hang around Skid Row? No. Can it be? Yes, most people who go on vacations, unless you're at a resort, most people, they're in their hotels to sleep, shower, maybe have a bit of breakfast or something or whatever, and they're on their way. You're spending the vast majority of your time out and about. I understand that. I get that. And generally speaking, people are not out and about in that area. So even if it did smell like urine, which it does, you would leave your hotel and you would walk down the street, get a cab, get the subway, and go up to Hollywood or something. I get you're not necessarily going to be hanging around there, but then why stay there? Why stay in that area? Just fork over the extra money, stay in Hollywood, stay further up the street in at the Westin Bonaventure Hotel, or that's a bit ritzy, but stay somewhere, holiday somewhere that isn't that. So they keep trying to think, oh, we'll revitalize the hotel. It doesn't matter. It's Skid Row, man. It's Skid Row. It doesn't matter. And it's not like, I'm going to be sharing elevators with the potential to share an elevator with somebody like that is very high. Enough. Personally, I would just make the whole fucking building a rooming house or something, or just keep it closed, turn it into a museum, charge, make it like Alcatraz, do tourism buses that drop people off there, and you go into the hotel and of course I know that might be in bad taste, hey, look at all this, we're making money off people's deaths. And I get that, but come on, it's America. You make money off people's deaths anyway. So I just think that this idea of and maybe it'll work, but if the area sucks, it doesn't matter how nice your hotel is. I got to go down to Skid Row to stay there. Why? I'll just fucking stay here where it's nicer, where I don't necessarily have to worry about the stench of urine the second I walk out and stepping in feces. Why? Who cares? So that's what I got to say to that. I just think stop the insanity, stop the mayhem. It's done. It's over. I know it's sad. It was a beautiful hotel when it opened in 1924. I know that. But the stock market crash of 1929 ended it, man. And it's been a shithole ever since. It's very nice inside. Like when you go into the lobby, it's nice, and you can tell that this was a nice place at one time, for sure, but it hasn't been nice in 70 years, so just let it go. I'm not saying tear it down. I don't think they can anyway, because I think it's a heritage site. I don't tear it down, but think of another way to use it. Please don't put anybody else in there. Please, don't make it. Look, it's no longer Cecil or Stay on Main. It's now the beautiful blah, blah, blah. Come on in. God, no, let it go. Let it go. Anyways, hey, if you're watching after the fact and you've watched it, comment below and let me know your thoughts on the Elisa Lam case. Let me know your thoughts on if you're somebody that has followed the case, if you're somebody that is into the case. Did you watch the documentary? Are you going to watch it? Let me know your thoughts on it and what you think about it. And maybe you are somebody that still thinks, no, it was an inside job and it was the hotel and they had anything to murder in the street. Let me know. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts. Comment below and let me know your thoughts. I would like to know. Let's move over to the chat room and see what's going on. Some of you may notice we have a new moderator in the chat, of course, is Chris Baber. Congratulations to Chris Baber, who is a new moderator here on the channel. My man, Chris. So congratulations to Chris. Great to see you here with that little wrench beside your name. So let me go over, make sure I haven't missed any super chats, which I don't believe I have. I have not. So let's go over to the chat and see what you guys are saying. Rick Baker says Netflix's first loyalty is to entertain and make a profit. Yep, absolutely. That's the first thing of any studio. They're not a studio technically, but they basically are. I believe the questions in this case might have answers, but are left vague to keep the viewer engaged. Cinematic license. You 100%. Oh, 100%. And that is why, like I was saying at the beginning of the show today, why these shows are designed in the ways they are. Why you could tell this story in 45 minutes, but that's not very engaging. Well, actually, it can be. I mean, look at Dateline, 2020, 48 Hours. I mean, they tell great mysteries that have a beginning, middle, and an end, and a resolution and outcome, sometimes not if the case is still open and active. But certainly, and sometimes they have like 2-part episodes, but the vast majority of their episodes are like, 45 minutes. It's an hour, but with, commercials, 45 minutes or so. So you could definitely have told this story in 45 minutes, 100%, easily. But like you just said, Rick, and rightly so, they want to... It's a movie, right? These documentaries are becoming very cinematic, and like I said, there's ebbs and flows and there's highs and lows, and they could have told you, and a lot of the people that are being interviewed have to act. That's why I think this woman was acting. They have to act like, and why would that happen? And they already know the answer. They already know the answer. They know the answer to the questions they're rhetorically asking. They know that. Because not, 2 episodes later, they're giving you that answer. But in the first few episodes, they have to act really perplexed and strange because they're telling a story. It's done very cinematically. There are characters, there are players, there are acts, there's first, second, and third acts, there's villains, there's, it's the way it is. And it's not that it's new. I mean, it's not like Netflix is doing, that's how 48 Hours sometimes does things too. They just do it in 45 minutes. So it's easier to digest and doesn't seem a little extraneous and, self-indulgent. It seems a little more kind of, here's what it is. But you're right. You're absolutely right, man. 100%. 100%. Dave Bob Petway says, anyone else find it weird they said they want to put a pool on the roof when they go to revamp it? I don't know. Seems weird to me, especially after Elisa drowned up there. Yeah, it does seem very strange. But what seems strange to me is, are they going to have signs saying mind the gap? Or are they going to put something? They're going to have to totally, and I'm sure they would know this, reconstruct the roof. Because the top of the Cecil Hotel, when you look at it from a bird's eye view, is in the shape of an E, right? And when you draw the letter E, well, there's gaps in between, right? So what are you going to do? That's just, come on up to the roof and have some alcohol and go for a swim and jump to your death. It just seems like, or don't even do it on purpose. Just get a little tipsy. Don't watch where you're going and insert Wilhelm scream here. It does seem a little dangerous. I'm sure that with building codes and regulations and things like that, it would have to be designed in a way where there is no danger. And listen, there are rooftop pools and rooftop bars all over the world, and people don't die and commit suicide and all that kind of stuff. So I'm sure there is a way to do it. But taking it at face value and looking at the roof and going, yeah, I don't know how you would, what are you going to do here? Do you know what I mean? What are you going to... I don't know how you're gonna, and then of course there's your point, which is is that right? She drowned up there. Do we want to put a pool up there? I don't know. I'm more worried about the safety and the construction of it. How logistically are you going to do this? It's fascinating, but you're not wrong though. You're definitely not wrong. 100%. Josh McGrath says, I have a very bad feeling someone is going to be murdered on that roof in that pool bar, knowing the Cecil Hotel is almost guaranteed. Well, and it's a good point, but that's the thing too, right? It's a shitty area. And because you're in a shitty area, you attract shitty people. Like I said, when we were down there, the first time I went down there, it's not the first time I was in LA, obviously, but we went down there, we went to the last bookstore. We were there for a couple hours. It's a really cool place, actually. And then we left and we walked down the street, turned right. It's maybe a 5-minute walk from the last bookstore. It's not that far. And as soon as we turned the corner, I forget the name of the street that it's on. I guess Main. Is it Main Street? Because they had that stay on Main. Maybe it was Main. Anyway, we turned the corner. We're walking. I can see it. I can see the Cecil sign. It's like, oh, there it is. That's cool, And we're walking. I'm like, fuck, it reeks of urine. Very distinctly urine. Probably because there was clearly urine around, and then that's when I was like, I got to watch what I'm doing. And then there was that guy, hey, you got any money? Hey. And I was like, no, I don't have any money. I was like, okay, you don't need a moo. And it's like, I just got down here. Like, what are the odds that the stereotype, and it's not even a stereotype. I mean, it is a stereotype, but I mean, there's good reason for it. You know, you think that I'd walk by and maybe I'd smell something. No, you know, and then I saw some other weird guy like, and this is like, as I said, the Cecil Hotel, although they say it's on Skid Row, it is from a certain point of view. It's actually on the very like end of Skid Row. But if you were to walk like a block south of the Cecil Hotel, I think it's south. Yeah, you would suddenly start to, you'd be in a very bad, like I would never, even as a man, I would not feel like, we stay in Hollywood, and my girlfriend and I will walk from our hotel, walk along Sunset Boulevard, and sometimes we'd walk to Amoeba, which is the famous music store and all that. Now it's moved. It's no longer on Sunset. It was there for years. It's actually moved up to Hollywood Boulevard now, I think. But anyway, last time we were there, that's where we frequent there. It's a cool place. And we would go there at night. We would leave at like, you know, because we were usually there in November, so the sun sets earlier. So we would leave, it'd be like 6 or 7, maybe 8, and we would walk down Sunset Boulevard and we would head to Amoeba. And now, you know, even walking along Sunset Boulevard in that area at that time, you know, you got to keep your wits about you. Sometimes you see some strange people, but I never felt like we were in danger. You know what I mean? I felt like I was very aware of where I was, but no different than I would be if I was walking in a dark kind of place in Toronto. I mean, you know, Toronto, I mean, I may be in Canada, folks, but Toronto's the 4th largest city in North America. And, you know, it's a big city. You got to keep your wits about you too, right? But I would never even think of leaving my hotel and going for a walk in that area at night. Never. No, are you kidding me? Fuck no. It's insane. It's insane. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. It's a crazy place. It's a crazy place for sure. And, you know, Holly Klein. Holly, great to see you here, Holly Klein. Holly says, this case always reminded me of the Japanese horror movie Dark Water. Rest in peace, Elisa. Yes, well, there's the Japanese version. And then, of course, there's a 2005 Hollywood remake with Jennifer Connelly called Dark Water. And there are parallels. There are parallels. Very strange parallels. And of course, Dark Water came out in 2005. That's what? That's 8 years before she disappeared. And then the Japanese movie, I think, was in the late 90s, if I'm not mistaken, I think. There's definitely, as they said in the doc, there definitely is some unusual synchronicity. You know, and it can be very easy to think and to lean towards certain outcomes when you don't have all the information. I just feel that now that the case is closed, and when I say now, it's been closed since 2013, by the way. I think anyway, unless it was, you know, I think the investigative side of it was closed. I know that her parents tried to sue the Cecil Hotel, which was after that. But I think the actual case was closed because I think that's separate, obviously. It's been closed for years. And I just think, why is this why did it take a Netflix documentary for us to know that that her acting weird was her writing? Like, shouldn't that just be... there's some stuff that was just strange that it took this long to come out. And like I said, now that it's, well, now release the unedited version of that tape. Just release it now. Just do it for people's peace of mind. If for nothing more, release the full unedited, undoctored version, because the security tape is doctored. It is. That doesn't mean, like I said, doesn't mean that there's a conspiracy, but it is doctored. It is. And as somebody with loads of experience in this area in terms of not doctoring, but video editing and post-production and things like that, yes, it is. But you don't have to be somebody like me to know that, obviously, but it's the first thing I noticed instantly, you know? So, well, now, okay, you had your reasons. Fair enough. Fair enough. Who the fuck am I? Fair enough. Case is closed. Just release the unedited version and just give all those conspiracy theorists out there some peace of mind. And I want to see it. I want to see it. And if you can't, than say, well, the reason why we can't is because Bob walked by and we don't want Bob's privacy to be. Okay, you could lie and even say that and nobody would know the difference. Okay, Bob walked by. All right, fair enough. That's why it was doctored. That's why there's the jump cut. They had to edit out Bob. All right, no problem. I doubt they will, though. Super chat comes in from David Lee Barron, says, is the Lam Elisa thing pure coincidence? What the fuck? Very strange, David. Yeah, I mean, yes, I guess so. It's very strange. You know, it's also very strange. And again, that's information I knew, and I did know this too, that there was that zip code or postal code or whatever that's the last bookstore has that is actually, when you mark it on a map, is the cemetery in Vancouver, thousands of miles away, where Elisa Lam is buried. That's weird. That's very weird. That's just very weird. You know, like that guy said in the documentary, it's just fucking weird. And you don't have to be a conspiracy theorist to go, yeah, that's fucking weird. It is. It's just fucking weird. You know, and yeah, agreed. The Lam Elisa thing is fucking weird. You know, like I said, I mean, it's like me disappearing and around the corner, there's this outbreak of something. And the test that you test, you use to test is called MCRAE Dave. And it just so happened that around the corner, there's a Dave McCrae went missing. Like it's fucking weird. It's very strange. Totally agree, man. Totally agree. Josh McGrath says, Dave, all jokes aside, with everything that has happened at the Cecil, if ghost spirits do exist, do you think that the negative energy only adds to the reputation of the hotel? 100%. 100%. I also think oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it has a dark past, you know, a very, very dark past. A once promising past, but a very dark past. And yes, I do think that that does play into it. And there is, I mean, there's two ways you can look at it. If you believe in ghosts, do you believe that, you know, that the actual ghosts' energy and spirits have an effect? Well, yes, you could, but I also think just psychologically too. I think that, you know, sometimes there are places that are very sad. When you know the history of a place, it has a very, you feel it. You know, you feel, because you're thinking about all the sadness that was there and all the tragedy that was there and all the horrific things that happened there. And it kind of, it weighs on you, you know. How can I have a good time in this place? How can I sleep well in this place? How can I, you know, walk through these halls thinking about anything else but, you know, it can affect you emotionally too, you know, spirits and ghosts aside. So the hotel, regardless of whether ghosts or spirits are real, has a dark energy to it anyway. You know, that's why I just don't think, I mean, look, could you save the hotel and rename it or rebrand it? Or yes, but not where it's located. You have to eradicate Skid Row before you can expect to thrive at the Cecil ever again. It's never going to happen. Even if they get rid of the housing and all the bums and the murderers and they don't stay there, it's still a shitty area, you know? Like I said, it's just, you know, it's crazy. Frank Riker sends the super chat. Thank you, Frank. Says, for all the sexy Sebastian Bach loving members in the chat. I love it. That's great. That's right. Yeah, why not? You know, Sebastian Bach. Why not? I haven't, I think that's funny. I got to listen to some Bach. Chris Baber, my man, says, thanks, buddy. Says, the story also reminds me of the second time I visited Mount Fuji and learned of the suicide forest at the base of the mountain. That place is haunted. Oh, dude, yes. To be fair, I don't know a lot about that, but yeah, the suicide forest is crazy. I know there was a movie they did on it naturally. I'm surprised they haven't done a movie on Elisa Lam yet, although I guess Dark Water kind of is one in some ways, although that's before. That's creepy, man. I didn't realize that was at the base of Mount Fuji. That's really cool. I mean, it's cool in terms of its location because Mount Fuji's cool. You know what I mean? So it's, oh, that's cool. You know? I mean, it's not cool what happens there, but you know what I mean? So it's sad though. I mean, and I've never been to Japan, so obviously I've never been to the forest, but I can only imagine what it must be like walking through there and seeing somebody hanging in a tree or something like that. That must be like fucking like, no wonder they made a horror movie on it. I mean, it's, with all due respect to the the thing, of course, I mean, it's ripe for that kind of stuff. I mean, it makes sense, but yeah, that would be eerie. That would be eerie, walking through there and seeing that. That would be fucking eerie. It would be even more eerie if you walked through and you saw like 10 of them, or even just like 2. It's fucking weird. It's crazy, man. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. Flinner says, Dave, have you seen the Hannibal TV show? And if so, do you like it? I have not seen it. I only started watching it recently and love it. I think Mickelson is a better Lecter than Hopkins. Fascinating. No, I haven't seen it. I've heard good things about it. People talk about it and say good things about it. So I just haven't watched it. Have not watched it. Evil Alex says, you had a good time filming It's Me, Billy in that haunted house. You had a good time. Oh, right. Yeah. No, It's Me, Billy. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if the It's Me, Billy house is haunted. It certainly is old. It was built in 1870, and it certainly, you could shoot a haunted house movie there. Obviously, It's Me, Billy's not a haunted house movie, but you could certainly shoot one there. But there was a murder there a couple years prior. So, yeah, that's, but you know what though? I'd have to ask the girls. I figured they would have said something. Like, I was staying at the house, Greg, our DP, was staying at the house, Bruce was staying at the house, and the 3 ladies were staying at the house. And the person who was playing Billy was also staying at the house. And we all knew about the past, but nobody, like, I slept like a baby. I never felt anything weird, never heard any strange bumps in the night. I mean, you'd hear like the pipes and things like that sometimes, but you knew what it was. No, never really. Never. I'd have to ask the girl, but I figure not, because I think they would have said something. They're the kind of girls that would have come down in the morning and been like, oh my God, last night I was, whatever. And that never happened. So, I don't think so. Robert Thidoff says, Dave, is there an entertainer you didn't realize they were more talented than you? Than you thought. There's probably a lot of people more talented than me than you thought until you saw a certain performance. Watched a lot of Gomer Pyle lately. My God, Jim Neighbors could sing and dance. Is that how I'm saying that? Neighbors? Yeah, Gomer Pyle. More talented than I thought. I can't think of anybody off the top of my head. And that's not to say that doesn't happen, or that it can't happen. But I can't think of anybody off the top of my head. It could also be the character he was playing too, right? Maybe you had that thought of him because his character was, all right, Andy, all right. I mean, he's very kind of, aloof, and you know what I mean? We sometimes forget that actors are playing characters, and it's not exactly a accurate depiction of who they really are. There's a lot of people that are like that, extraordinarily talented. You know what I mean? So that's interesting, though. That's interesting. Let me see here. Aaron Click says, Skid Row says, I remember you, to the Cecil Hotel. Yeah, it's true. Oh my God. It's a cool place in the sense of, because of the history that's there. When you walk down there, I mean, despite the urine smell and the bums and things like that. And like I said, if you ever go down to Skid Row, or if you go down to the Cecil Hotel, don't ever go down to Skid Row. Don't. It's not worth the risk. I mean, you can go down to the Cecil, because it's, like I said, it's on the cusp, and you can walk by it, and it's pretty cool. And I mean that in the sense of, wow, there it is, and look, I mean, that's it, because it's not just Elisa Lam, it's, Ramirez and all the other shit that's happened there. And I mean, it's got a lot of mystique to it, of course, and a lot of sadness to it. But yeah, don't ever fucking go to Skid Row, folks. Just, it ain't worth the risk, man. Flinner says, Dave, what do you think happened to Mara Murray? Oh, that's another one, man. Oh, I can't even. Heard you talk about it in the past, and it's such an odd case. She straight up disappeared. Yeah. It would take too long for me to get into now. But that is one of the granddad. I mean, you think Elisa Lam is a like a page turner rabbit hole kind of thing. Mara Murray blows Elisa Lam out of the water. Now, part of the reason for that could also be that the Elisa Lam case is solved, and we know what happened. A body's been discovered. It's closed. And the Mara Murray case is 17 years still going. And actually, just the other day, on February the 9th, I don't want to say celebrated, that's not the right word, but they acknowledged, because she disappeared on February the 9th, 2004, and they acknowledged her disappearance again the other day. That's a fucking weird case. But that's the kind of case where it's got a lot of web sleuths. It's got a lot of people tackling it. It's become so convoluted with so many fucking theories that I just wish these people would understand that the simplest explanation is probably the one that happened. It's got so many, but it is a weird case. She pretty much like almost literally disappeared. It's very, now obviously she didn't. It's impossible. She didn't, literally, dematerialize and vanish. But whatever happened was very quick and very fast and is very strange. So I would like to dive deeper into the Mara Murray case, but it's just if you know about the case, it's like, where do you begin? Well, I guess you begin at the beginning, but there's so much. I would much rather somebody else do the work for me. Like I would much rather watch a 4-part docuseries on the disappearance of Mara. Now there is one that aired on Oxygen a couple years ago. And it wasn't a 4 parts. It was like a 10-part series or something, but they were like half-hour episodes, or maybe they were longer. Anyway, the Oxygen Network, which we don't get here in Canada, I had to actually get it through Amazon Prime. But if you want to know the Mara Murray case, that's a good place to start. You could watch the Oxygen docuseries. But I would rather watch that and then talk about it again. I did watch it, but I'd have to watch it again. Anyways, it's just I don't know, man. I don't know what happened to her, but the likely scenario is that she was picked up. I mean, really at the end of the day, that's the likely scenario. Regardless of whether it was 2 minutes, 30 seconds, or 5 minutes, the likely scenario, she was picked up. She wasn't abducted by aliens. She didn't dematerialize and vanish to another dimension. You get those people. Obviously that didn't happen. You know what I mean? She was picked up. By who, where, or maybe it was, the bus driver, Butch Atwood. Maybe it was, who knows? I know. And he's dead now too. He's dead. His wife is still alive and lives in Florida, who knows, man. People have written off Butch, and even people that know a lot about the case, but I haven't. I still think Butch could have done something. I think it's weird. Yeah, but his wife would have, yeah. For me, Butch Atwood in the Mara Murray case, even though he's dead now, is still a suspect in my mind. Maybe not the number one suspect, or at least a person of interest. I think he's a person of interest. 100%. But that's me. Anyway, I don't want to get off on a Mara Murray tangent here because I just don't have the time for it, but it's crazy, man. David Lee Barron says, thoughts on the dark web? Have you explored it? No, not really. I don't really do that when I'm on the interwebs. But it's a very dark place to go down. That's for sure. Interesting too. Gary Rangel sends a $2 super chat, says, Dave, thoughts on Jared Leto's new Joker look? I don't know. Don't really care. I have no dog in the fight. I saw the photos and I was like, oh, okay. I have no dog in the fight. I have no emotional investment into the DC cinematic universe. I don't care. I look at, I'm like, does he look like the Joker? Sure. Did he look like the Joker in Suicide Squad? Yeah. He just looked like a different Joker. He looks like another different Joker. So I don't know. Now I haven't seen Suicide Squad, to be fair. I was on the set of Suicide Squad, by the way. They shot Suicide Squad here in Toronto. And I was on set for the Batman chase. A buddy of mine was a production assistant down on the shoot. And he invited me down and he was able to get me on the set. And I was talking to a bunch of people and it was really cool. I took some photos. I do have photos of the Batman set, or the Batman set, the Suicide Squad set when I was down. This is 15, I guess. Because when did it come out? It came out 2016, I think. So this would have been like 2015 maybe. I was down there. Yeah. Yes. It was 2015. Yes, it was when I was down there. And I was down there when they were shooting, the Suicide Squad. When I was down there when they were shooting the Batman on the roof chase, on the roof of the Joker's car, and I saw them doing that, and I was able to talk to a couple of the like people who were working on set and things like that. It was great. It was a lot of fun. And the same PA that worked on that, he also worked on It Chapter 1. I was going to go down to the It Chapter 1 set too in Port Hope, which is east of Toronto here, but I couldn't. I was not available. So pretty cool though. But anyway, side note, whatever. I mean, it doesn't bother me, because I don't know. What do you think? Right? I mean, if you're a DC fan and you know more about this than I do, I should be asking, I trust your opinion more, because you can tell me all the details and the nuances of why it's great or why it's not. I'm like, he looks like a Joker. It looks like Jared Leto it just looks like different from the Suicide Squad. I don't know. Is he supposed to be a different Joker altogether? Or is this like the same Joker from Suicide Squad, but earlier or later, or I don't even know that. It's crazy. All right, a couple more minutes here, folks, and then I got to skedaddle. This has been a great show. I talked a lot today, but there's a lot to talk about. And good show today, though, folks. Good show. Nelson, is it Nelson Jekes? Am I saying that right? Hey, Dave, are there any horror movies that you're looking forward to seeing this year? Well, I mean, Halloween Kills, obviously. I'd have to look at what's coming out. I'd have to look at what specific horror movies are coming out in 2021. So I'm not too sure. I mean, A Quiet Place 2 is coming out. And I said this before, I wasn't a fan of A Quiet Place. I didn't not like it, but you've heard me talk about why I didn't particularly think it was. I am stunned that everybody lost their shit over that. But I love the concept of A Quiet Place. Thought the concept was good. So I'm curious to see A Quiet Place 2, because I'm hoping I like A Quiet Place 2 more. I'm hoping I believe in the characters' choices more. As you know, if you follow me for some time, I just didn't believe the characters' choices. I had trouble believing the characters would be that dumb and make those decisions in that kind of an environment. Took me out of the movie. So, but I love the concept, and there were some good moments in the movie. There were some good things, good action, cool effects. I mean, but there was just, I do have a review of it. Oh, a review, in my own kind of way on my channel from a couple years ago. Just type in Dave McCrae, A Quiet Place or something on YouTube. And it's in the video where I also talk about Bird Box. So, because I talked about those movies in the same video. YouTube that, check it out. You'll hear everything about it I have to say. Or everything that I have to say about it, I should say. But I am looking forward to A Quiet Place 2 because I want to like it. And we'll see. We'll definitely see. We will definitely see. Jason the Tank Engine says, man, poor Elisa Lam. Yep, definitely. General Shepard says, Dave, what are your thoughts on Area 51 and what do you think is going on there? That's a loaded question, man. I don't know. I think what goes on in Area 51 is exactly what the U.S. government tells you goes on in Area 51. However, we do know that there are black ops operations, and we do know that there are top secret facilities, and we do know that there are some weird and unusual crazy shit going on. So I think there is a high probability that there is some weird fucking shit going on out there too. But that's not to say that they don't also make secret aircraft for the U.S. Air Force. They do. I mean, for years, people thought the stealth bomber was also a UFO until it was revealed that no, this is, So, I mean, I think that I also think some of the UFOs that people see could just be aircrafts, secret U.S. military aircrafts or other government aircrafts, 100%. But that doesn't mean that everything people see is that. You know what I mean? So I mean, I'd love to dive more into it. I just don't have the time right now, but that's sort of a kind of a 101 answer. That's kind of how I feel. I definitely think there's some crazy stuff going on out there, man. I definitely think there's some crazy stuff going on out there for sure. All right, folks, that's going to do it for me for episode 144 of MCRAE Live. Thanks to my moderators, Frank Riker, Tabitha Shore, Darren Sands, and Chris Baber, the new moderator on the channel, for doing what you guys do. I really appreciate it. You guys are amazing. Thank you to the Super Chat questions that came in today. Thank you to the non-Super Chat questions that came in today, of course. I really appreciate it. And if you're watching live right now, or if you're watching after the fact, comment below and let me know your thoughts on the Elisa Lam case. Are you somebody like me that knew all about this case prior to the documentary? Or are you somebody that had no idea about this case until the Netflix documentary? I will say the one thing that Netflix did do did a good job. But one thing is, it is designed, they did a good job at doing a documentary that people completely green to the story could watch and get value out of. 100%. They did a great job on that. A little too much filler for me, but they did a good job of that. But comment below and let me know your thoughts. Comment below and let me know your thoughts. I would love to know. Folks, if you want to follow me on Facebook, you can at facebook.com/manythingsdavemccrae. That's where I tend to post in the meantime and in between time when I'm not posting here. All my links are in the description. Check them out until your heart's content. And when your heart is content, check them out again. Links to my IMDb, my Patreon, my Twitter, my Instagram, official website, all down below in the description. Check them out if you feel you want to do that. Have a great rest of your Thursday. Thank you for tuning in. You guys are amazing, but you already know that. And I will talk to you soon. Alrighty. Cheers.